Hello, this is Michael Fiore, and I want to welcome you to Module 3 of the Text Your Wife Into Bed program. Module 3 is called Establishing Her Sexual Power, Telling Her She Turns You On. Now, a quick recap from our previous video, the Curiosity Pivot video. The Curiosity Pivot is how we get her attention and start to switch context to our dirty channel. Again, texting, we want to establish texting as a dirty channel between you and your wife, a private channel between the two of you, where really every time you guys talk over text, you particular two people, it should have kind of a sexual and or sexual romantic kind of feel to it. Step 2 is where you send her text about how much she turns you on. So the Curiosity Pivot is all about getting her attention and switching context. And step 2 is where you establish how much she turns you on. What we're doing here, we're accomplishing a few different things. One, we're making your wife feel sexy by telling her how much she turns you on. As we talked about in one of the previous videos, most women have low sexual self-esteem. They feel bad about their bodies, they feel bad about their sexual skills, they feel like they can't satisfy you in a proper way, etc., etc., etc. We want to basically make your wife feel incredibly sexy. We want to make your wife, no matter what her body type is, feel good about it. Make her feel like a sex goddess, essentially. We're also going to establish her sexual power over you or over us. And the reason we do that is to help her feel safe and in control of the situation. Again, as we said in the previous video, women who feel safe are more likely to open up. They're more likely to allow themselves to really feel their sexual power and to really feel the emotions and the sensations that they crave so much. So that's what we do there. And we're also going to use masculine sexual language in this section. In the previous video, we talked about masculine sexual language versus feminine sexual language. We're going to use masculine sexual language here because that's kind of what she's used to hearing from men in general. She's used to hearing about how a woman looks. Look at that beautiful ass. Look at that girl's stomach. Look at that girl's eyes. Look at that mouth, her lips, etc. So we're using her masculine language to establish your lust, because if we started talking like a woman to her, she'd probably think something was up. But if we use masculine language, it'll seem normal. Notes on this. If you're not creepy, and I've said this before, women like it when you find them attractive. The trick is to tell her how hot she is from a position of strength. Now, some guys get confused when I talk about the idea of her sexual power, and they think, oh, we're making ourselves look weak. Not at all. Instead, we are establishing ourselves as strong, powerful men. And then the fact that we're strong and powerful men and that she still has power over us to some degree is just really good for her. It gives her a really high status, and it gives her the sensation of being something really special. Again, feminine power comes from being found attractive and having power over strong and dominant men. Can't really reiterate that too many times. So your job here is to take the lead, and you must own your lust. It's a good thing. If you act weird about finding her sexy, that ain't sexy, and it ruins the effect. So you've got to really be just fine with the fact that you have to look at her with unbridled lust, total respect, and just be like, you are a beautiful woman. You are an incredibly sexy woman. I want to bend you over a couch. I want to do all these things to you, and I respect you as a person. So there's two basic options on this section 2 text. The first option is what I call the asset text. Very simple. The example is, your ass is so beautiful, or so fucking beautiful if you want to swear. Or you can do a really clean version, that devilish sparkle in your eyes, that your incredibly sexy lips. The nape of your neck drives me crazy. I look at your hand, whatever it is, whatever your wife thinks of as her best assets. That's the key here. You want to focus on what she thinks are her best assets, and that is not necessarily going to be logical. In fact, it most likely will not be logical. As we said before, most women have low sexual self-esteem and have low self-esteem about their bodies. And I would say really, really attractive women are just as bad as anybody else. So, you take a supermodel and ask her how she feels about her body. She'll probably be even more critical than your average housewife because, she's somebody who's on screen all the time and has people taking pictures. But either way, you got to know what she considers to be her best assets and what she considers to be her problem areas. Never mention her problem areas. If you don't know what her problem areas are, because you're just not on that level of communication, you might want to ask her friends, ask her sister, ask her best friends. They will tell you. Option 2 is the remember text. This is basically where you revivify a recent sexual experience with her, or even one from the distant past. Revivify is a fancy word for basically make it feel like it's happening right now. Essentially, you want to take the emotions and the sensations that she was feeling back then and make her feel them now to some degree. So you would do that by telling her how much you liked a sensation, the look on her face, etc., how incredibly sexually attractive she is to you. So, say if you took a trip to the Grand Canyon, or you went on vacation, or you had sex while you were in Europe, or you had a particularly kinky weekend one time where you experimented, which she really enjoyed, you want to bring that up. Again, here you want to use masculine sexual language. Here's some examples. You looked so goddamn gorgeous when you sucked my cock in the woods that one time. Again, we're using pretty dirty language here. That's what we're here to do, is to use really dirty language. And we're going to build up to that as we go. Another example would be, guy, I can't stop thinking about that time that we crawled into the back of the van while the kids were away for the weekend, and I spread your thighs open, and we made such dirty, dirty love right there in the middle of the parking lot. Whatever it's going to be, bringing up that kind of situation. Another example, this is actually a feel thing, the way you feel against me, anything like that. Or even how much you turn me on. Being really simple here is very, very, very okay. In fact, first couple times out of the gate, you're probably going to use something as simple as, I can't stop thinking about how much you turn me on, or how incredibly gorgeous you are, or how sexy you are, or how ravishing you are, or how you can just make me melt just by looking at me, how your smile just kind of shivers through my spine and gives me a hard on, things like that. One thing that I kind of want to cover is this idea of swearing and vulgarity. As I go through this program, I do occasionally use swears. I say things like fuck on occasion. It's not because I'm particularly a dirty mouth person in my general life, but it's because those words have a certain visceral power in our culture. There are certainly plenty of women out there who don't like vulgarity. There are plenty of women, even some who went through the beta test of this with me or for me, who find vulgarity really to be a big turnoff. And I would say that's a percentage of them. I don't really know how many. I think it's a minority, generally speaking. In my experience, a lot of women, when you start creating this fantasy context, this fantasy world, you can get away with using language they wouldn't otherwise want you to use. You can use words like bitch. You can use words like slut. You can use words like, you can swear and have it be okay, even with a woman who would never allow that in their everyday life. The reason for that is because vulgarity is great for creating shock and finishing the change of context. If you don't normally swear, then when you do swear, it really becomes something special. But if your woman just doesn't like it, if you try some vulgarity and you get a really negative reaction, you don't need it. But anything you can do sensually or through vulgarity to get her out of mommy mode or wife mode, that's our goal. We want to get her into I am a sexy woman mode. You want to get her thinking about herself as an object of lust and desire. And you can do that with vulgarity or without. In fact, as you go through the material I've given you, you're going to notice that really I kind of just use swears sparingly, and we use them as a way to kind of punctuate an idea. And that oftentimes the best things we can send, while they're very dirty and sensual, they don't really use swears at all. And you'll see that throughout the entire thing. Okay, so by the end of the step 2 text, we're going to establish that she's incredibly sexy and that you can't help but want her. You see, she expects and wants you to be a beast, but still have control. Men, our role is really to be the aggressor, to be the sexual aggressor, to be the man who, it's hard for you to control yourself when you see her. She is so incredibly attractive and so incredibly sexy. Okay, so let's continue on from our previous example. In the last module, we were talking about curiosity pivots. And we did that with things like, I was just thinking, and her response would be something like, about what? Your response to that is, how gorgeous your ass is, or something like that, or the incredible sparkle in your eye, etc. Anything that's going to be where you're basically you're completing the context shift. The curiosity pivot basically gives you the open to do this, and then this is where you basically say, this is going to be something about sexuality. This is going to be something about you getting turned on and having a good time. Another example. I was just remembering how amazing you felt pressed against me last night. Simple, right? Totally simple. Really. And here's another, stop it. Stop what? Distracting me. I use a little emoticon here. That's, the smiley face is the only one I ever personally use, or I ever really recommend you use. You don't want to get too cute with it. I just find that to be a way to kind of say, hey, this is fun, this is playful, this is a good time, this isn't creepy. You don't get to use, she can't see you when you're doing this, so you got to give her something. And you say, how am I distracting you? It's that smile of yours and how you looked in my eyes when you stood up on your tiptoes and kissed me this morning, and how much, whatever it's going to be. It can be anything kind of from there. Or it could be, how you looked me in the eyes when you kissed your way down my chest and took my cock in your mouth. Whatever it's going to be, you can get as dirty as you want to. It really depends on how far gone she is at that point. If you've had sex really recently and it's been good, you can kind of go there pretty quickly. If not, you have to build up over time. So here's your assignment. I want you to figure out what assets you can safely use with your wife and write out 5 experiences you can revivify. So your assets are going to be, what is it about her that she considers to be her best asset? Is it her breasts? Is it her ass? Is it her eyes, her lips, her mouth? What is it? And you want to write those out. And you probably want to also create a list of what her no-goes are, her things that you should not talk about are, so you can avoid them. And I also want you to write out 5 past experiences you can revivify. 5 things that, good experiences you had. I'm assuming there was a time in the past earlier on in your relationship that you guys were having really good sex on a regular basis. It could be a long time ago. It could be more recently, whatever it's going to be. All you really got to do is take those and revivify them, and just take your time and write out what the experience was. Close your eyes, think about it, and put yourself back in that position. And what was it about that situation that you really liked and that she really liked? What did she enjoy? Okay? And your next video is where the rubber really hits the road. It's called the multi-sensual storytelling video. That's where we're really going to get have a lot of fun, and we're going to get really dirty. In fact, that's the video where I'm going to show you how to create a fantasy over text for your wife or for whatever woman you might be using this with, and get great results. Okay, so looking forward to the next video. Do your homework, and we're getting there, folks. Thanks.